Welcome to Feed Your Lion. I'm Dr. L.I.O.N, and I'm here to aid you in the mastery of total health, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and financial. So prepare to have your wellness tank filled up with this podcast. Welcome to another episode of Feed Your Lion podcast. Today's special guest is Dusty Kempf, and she has got a very interesting story. We actually just met just now, but we have a couple mutual friends, and Tina, who's been on here before talking about meditation and that kind of thing, said, you've got to get Dusty on here and let her tell her story. So I really appreciate you coming today. And she's such a good sport. She's like, yeah, I'm an open book. And I love that because I was like, are you sure there's not? And she's like, no, just tell the story. So thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
So tell a little bit, just first off, like what you're doing now, like your background, because basically you went from in the system, the prison system, to now you're a probation officer, right?
I am, yeah.
Like totally opposite ends of the coin there, which is so great. And so I guess just a little bit, just start about like your story, where you're from, like how you came to be where you're at today.
Well, I'm from Willersburg, Ohio, and I grew up in a drug-addicted family. Everybody uses drugs, sells drugs, a lot of trauma. So, I ended up in the system like that, obviously. I followed my family.
Yeah.
So I started getting in trouble and breaking the law and ended up going to my parole officer, actually, at the time when I got put on parole. I called her and said, hey, I need some help. So she's like, okay, I'm going to get you in this place. She sent me to this place, and I walked in, and I'm like, oh, hell with this. I can't do this. So I walked out.
Yeah.
I called her back 2 weeks later. Hey, help me again. I need help again. So she said, here, go to this detox center. It's right here at Bellefonte. Yeah. And I didn't know that they were going to search my clothes or anything like that. Having my addict brain thinking, I was like, well, I'm just going to take in a little bit of dope because I know I'm going to be sick, and I'm going to do a little bit this day and do a little bit that day, and I'm going to work my way down. So I didn't know that they were going to search my clothes. They found my dope when I walked in there, and I was like, this place isn't for me either. So I left again. She puts a warrant out for me and ends up picking me up, sent me to treatment. But that was the first time that law enforcement had ever, anybody really, because I didn't have any sober support. My whole family was wrapped up in the chaos and stuff too.
Yeah.
So that was the first person that ever planted that seed was my parole officer.
Okay.
She planted that seed of she kept telling me, you're better than this. You can do this. She sent me to treatment out in Kids Hill. And back then, we didn't have cell phones like we do now. So she said, I'm taking you out here so you can't walk away. And she was right. I was not walking away. My legs were hurting too bad from withdrawing and stuff like that.
Did they do any of the Suboxone or methadone back then or anything?
Not back then, no. Yeah. You didn't even have Medicare, like you do now, Medicaid. You have to have children and stuff like that. And at that point, I'd actually lost custody of my son because I had a son when I was 19 and all this chaos. And they ended up letting me stay there for free as an indigent bed.
Okay.
And I ended up being there for 10 months. But she was the very first person that ever even told me that I can be something different. Yeah. Because I never did hear that from anybody else. Yeah. From my family or anything. So it was her, and I ended up staying there for 10 months. And ended up getting an apartment here in Cold Grove. Okay. So I stayed away from my family for a little while. I ended up, my son kept asking me to come back around because, he missed me, and I had to remove myself from the family, and I knew I needed to. Yeah. But my son, was pulling at my heartstrings, wanting me to come back around, and I did. And within a month, I was in prison. I bought an Oxy-40 off my grandma, and it just went downhill very quickly after that. So after I got out of prison, I did a year and a half there because I violated probation. Okay. Did a year and a half, got out, moved back here to Cold Grove, got into working out and stuff, though, in prison. I kept that up when I got out and moved here. Yeah. Started working out, and then I was working at Cheddar's. Met a friend here, Sharon. She was stage competing at the time, and her and some people at the gym down here was like, hey, you need to stage compete. Yeah. Working out, ended up becoming my outlet. So I met her. We started stage competing. She helped me for my first couple of shows that I did.
Okay.
Just then I started, that's how I met Tina, was at the gym.
I was going to say, you met Tina through the gym too, because I know she
Yeah.
was doing that for a while too. Now, what kind of stage competing did you do? Like what class?
I did figure.
Okay.
So I think I did four or five shows.
Okay.
For that. So, that's kind of what helped me.
Yeah.
So when I got out of prison and moved here, I realized then when I went to prison, like, oh crap, my family, I got to leave my family, no matter how much it hurts, because, your family, you grow up thinking like, this is your family, that's your blood, and that's not, I realized they might be my blood, but that's who's hurting me. And if I want to do something different, then I have to walk away from my son because I lost custody of him. And he kept begging me to come around. But my grandma actually got custody of him, even though she was in the chaos, which, that's another story. But I realized you have to do whatever it takes if you want to stay sober. And if that's leaving your family, if that's leaving your kids, because that's in the chaos, then that's what you have to do.
Yeah. And this area especially, that's huge. There's a lot of people that have families in that. And that's something they talk about all the time, like getting out and away from the triggers, where you've been. But that's really a hard thing when you're leaving behind the people you love the most too.
Yeah. Especially, my son.
Yeah.
But we have a really good relationship though now, and it was hard because he didn't understand. At first, he couldn't understand why I couldn't take care of him, why I left him, why I'm not coming back around to where it was. Now that he's older, he understands because he has kind of distanced himself. He'll talk to him and stuff some, but he escaped the drug use, and I don't know how he did it. It definitely wasn't because of me, because I was not a good mom, and he wasn't in a good environment with the rest of the family either. But we have a really good relationship now, but I've had to be completely honest with him, kind of like, I'm doing now, and that's how I've healed.
Yeah.
Is I've been brutally honest about my past, where I've been, what I've had to do to get there. And if you just keep all that stuff in, you can't heal, or at least I couldn't. I don't know about other people, but I couldn't heal just keeping all that in.
How long did it take you, like after you had been like removed from that environment, to be comfortable like speaking about it like this? Because you're pretty open. I was gonna say that I feel like you've come pretty far, because you're just like, you're pretty open about things. So
yeah. It took me a long time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to hurt people.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hurt my dad. I didn't want to hurt my grandma and them. But those people have been hurting me for years, and I've got to heal. So now it's about me. It's not about how you all are. And I'm not purposely wanting to hurt other people, but I'm here today for myself, and I'm going to heal myself no matter what it takes. So that's where most people they struggle a lot doing that, because you hear where you think you're better than the rest of us, or you don't come around, or you just think you're too good. And it's not that I think that I'm too good. My mind is just different today. Yeah. It's not stuck back in our cocaine snorting days. I'm not there anymore.
Right.
So obviously I'm not going to hang out with you if we don't have that stuff in common anymore.
What made that shift for you? Was it prison? Was it something else? Like what changed in your mind where you were like, that's not...
I always knew that I wanted something different. I just didn't know how to get out. I didn't know who to help me. I didn't have anybody to help me. I didn't have, I was always taken advantage of as a female in my drug using days by, other men, or just, family's chaotic. There's just a lot of trauma and stuff like that. So I just never had anybody that would show that kindness to me, even though I was in the depths of hell, it felt like, you know, except for my parole officer. And I always knew that I wanted something different. I just didn't know where to go, and I didn't know where to turn, and I never had anybody that could say, hey, you could do this, you're better than what you're doing, other than her. She was that first person that planted that seed. So once I started getting out of it and getting out of prison, it was very hard because I had to learn how to live life all over again.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to live life without drugs and chaos and fighting and arguing and trauma. And trying to learn to live life every day without all that chaos, it was very difficult. There was times that I would just sit on the floor and cry because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to live life. I didn't have any friends, and this is before I met Sharon and Tina and, and all those people. This was like right after prison and stuff. I didn't have those friends. I had to learn how to create that. So I just had to suck up the uncomfortableness, started going to the gym, and I started meeting some positive people, and I ended up meeting Sharon and Tina, and they're still in my life today, and they're more like family to me than my family is.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible too. Like, even, I mean, like, I was telling you before, we have that all-female gym in the basement, and just like the camaraderie and the support of that. I mean, I don't think people that like don't have that realize, like, that's such a like close group, and you're accountable to those people, and it is a positive thing. You're going there to like work out, to do good things, and it's just the friendships built in that. I think that's cool that you like that was a help for you too when you got out. Because I think like we have a good environment like that, like with ours, and I love that aspect of it. The friendships, it's like a family thing, and I don't know, I really love that, and they've been on here too, but my gym girls are family to me, so.
They do become, that Tina, she has actually painted me butt naked at shows. She went to me, so when we always joke, and she's always like, I've seen your ass, so I'm like, well, that's true.
That's hilarious. I love it. I know those shows don't leave anything, do they?
No, it's all just there, and Tina's just got a paint roller.
This is off subject, but I want to know how your first show and stuff went. How was that? Was it was that a culture shock?
Because I was nervous, and there were some amazing women up there, and that was my very first one. I didn't know how to pose, and but it was still fun. And Sharon, she was a trooper. She helped me right through it. She didn't want to stage compete anymore because she had done that in the past. But she's like, I'll do your first few with you, and she did. Yeah. But it was learning to walk in those heels too, and not fall and flex, and it was just difficult.
See, I started powerlifting about 6 months ago. I'm not going to compete for like at least 2 or 3 years probably to get to like a level I want to like at least be decent at. But still, like, I'm trying to go to a couple shows here and there, and I'm like, man, there's some, like, tough competition in those things. But anyways.
Powerlifting's fun, though, too. I got into that right after I did some stage competing, and then I got into some powerlifting.
Yeah. I like that there was a little more flexibility on food.
Yeah, you can definitely eat. So I went through my phases of being in shape and then eating a lot. And
I have food addiction problems.
Hey, well, it's better than cocaine. So.
Oh gosh. Okay, so your story. So the first time before you were out and met your parole officer, how long did you spend in prison that time? The first.
Well, I did 1.5 years. In prison. So I was actually on charge. I was on parole from Kentucky because I had some manufacturing charges over here.
So you didn't go to prison the first time. They just gave you like the
they gave me paper.
Okay.
And then she's actually not the one because I was on paper here and I was on paper in Ohio. So I got in trouble a little bit everywhere. So she was actually my parole officer, and if she would have sent me back or violated me, I'd have had to come back to Kentucky because I was on parole with her from Kentucky. But I was on probation. Another probation officer actually sent me to prison in Ohio.
Gotcha.
So I know it's confusing because I was on like different kinds.
State line. Well, and we're in the tri-state, so it's a little bit like wonky. But so during like prison time, how was that? Did you like, was it what you expected? Was it different? Because you said you went to.
I went to Marysville.
Marysville, okay.
It was definitely different because, when you're walking in, I guess jail, I squatted and coughed, but I was too high when I went into jail, so I don't, or drunk or something, so I don't really remember.
Yeah.
Or they may have just thrown me in a cell and didn't make me do all that. I vaguely remember that in jail, but in prison, I was definitely sober when I went there and had to do all that squatting and coughing and turning around and spread. So that was definitely, that was an experience, and then you go, when you go to the showers, there's mainly not a lot of shower curtains. So you've got inmates just doing whatever in front of you, and you just, it's not there. You just shower and you do what you need to do. Yeah, you do your thing. And just stay out of that. I managed to stay out of trouble when I was in prison, but I did have some family there that was not, not as, they didn't do what I did. They just got in trouble and got high there. And so I didn't hang out with them much in prison either, because that's where I started working out at.
Okay.
Was in prison. And then when I went to pre-release, I actually got my gate pass because I stayed out of trouble. Except, well, when I first went in, I ended up getting in a fight and going to the hole for 10 days. Just a thing in prison, people just want to see if you're willing to stand up for yourself. And once you do, then they let it go. So I didn't get in any trouble, though, after that. But that's where I really found working out as I worked out every day there. And they have a little gym.
Yeah.
Then they have some lifers there that were pretty cool. They would do like kickboxing classes, and
okay.
One of the inmates, that's what she did on the street. She was a boxer.
Really?
Yeah. So she did some classes up there, some kickboxing classes and stuff like that. So
That's
I just
cool.
worked out a lot.
Yeah. Now with the whole stuff, is that like solitary basically, or like what do they?
No, I was in a big open dorm, so you're just in a big open dorm with tons of females.
Okay.
So in Marysville, how they did it then, if you got the smaller dorms, it's lifers. That's,
Okay.
in there for life for murder, stuff like that, that's got a long time in prison.
Okay.
So if you're just there for a year and a half, you're just in a big open dorm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a lot of privacy.
Not a lot of privacy at all. Everything's just wide open, and you just get used to it, and you just go on, and you just kind of. I didn't really have many visitors. My dad, I think he maybe came and seen me once the whole time I was in prison, and
Really?
then I think my grandma and them brought my son up to pre-release maybe once. But you just kind of, that's your world, and that's where you got to be. So focusing on what's happened on the outside, you just got to let that go and just move on. And I actually I bettered myself in there. A lot of people don't. Prison was the best thing that ever happened to me. It truly was.
Did they have like opportunities? Like I know a lot of like, I worked a year out at the federal men's prison just as like the clinical side, but they had like programs for like, learning HVAC or learning skills. Did they have anything like that when you were?
Yeah. They did. You could go into several of them. I wasn't there long enough to really take a lot of them, but I did learn some basic plumbing when I went to pre-release.
Okay.
They sent me to pre-release in Franklin because I got my gate pass, and I was on the maintenance crew there.
Okay.
So I would go outside of the gates and mow grass and stuff all day, paint, help them basic plumbing there. So I did learn some basic plumbing just by, doing that, staying out of trouble and doing what I needed to do, which that made my time pass. That 6 months there just flew by just because I was outside of the gates a lot, just mowing grass and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, would you have any like advice for that? Like if somebody would you have any tips, I guess, for being in prison if somebody was?
Stay out of the negativity. Find the few people that working out all the time. Typically, if they're working out every single day, they're not getting in trouble because they don't want to lose
that privilege.
They don't want to lose that privilege,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I did. I found some people that just stayed out of trouble, wasn't getting high, wasn't on any of that other crap, that didn't want to lose their privileges, and I just made friends with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anything you see in prison, you don't see.
Yeah.
It's none of your business. If it's not happening to you,
well, it's not. Yeah.
It's not your problem.
Yeah. Okay. So you got out. You did. You stayed away from family. So what were the next steps after the gym and things? Like, how did you get into the probation side of things?
Well, at the time I was working at the gym. I quit Cheddar's. I was working down here at Iron Warehouse.
Yeah.
And I was just working there, and I didn't want to go to work anywhere else because I was just enjoying gym life.
Yeah.
Because, I meal prepped there. I did competitions, and I lifted all day, and that was my life.
Yeah.
But then a counselor I had, Danita, she was a clinical director of the Linda Center when I was there. She was working down here at a treatment center in Franklin Furnace. And I was training people here and there, doing some boot camp stuff. She's like, why don't you come and train the girls here, doing some boot camp stuff? And I was like, okay. So that center started paying me to go in there and doing some workouts with their clients and stuff. So I started doing that. Then she was like, hey, why don't you come here and just start working? I'm like, I don't want to be in this field at all. She's like, well, just come part-time. So I got on part-time as an RA. And then she eventually talked me into going, full-time, and I became a case manager. And then I became their court liaison. And I just started going to all the courts in Ironton, Scioto County. I did all of Chillicothe courts, all of Waverly courts. I was starting to go into Jackson. Sometimes I would go to Columbus. And where I'm actually working at now at the Portsmouth Municipal Court, position came open. And it was crazy because I knew that they were going to hire me. I kept telling, he's now the chief, I kept saying, you guys are going to hire me. There was just something telling me that they were going to hire me. And they did. They called me one day and it was like, hey, do you want a job? And I'm like, I was stunned about it first. I'm like, they really asking me about a job for real? But even though I knew, there was something telling me that they were going to hire me. But so I was like, well, yeah. So I left work and went straight down there. And actually one of the judges that just dislikes my family a whole lot, he came down and talked to me, and I just remember being so nervous talking to him. I'm like, there's no way that he's going to agree to this. And he did.
Did he initiate it, or somebody else had initiated it?
Somebody else initiated it.
And he wanted final,
Yeah, because where I was working as a court liaison for the other company, I was going into the jail for that probation officer. And he liked me because I always just did my job. When I was at court liaison, they'd call me and I would just jump right on it and do what I needed to do. So I always just tried to work really hard because I was always trying to build other contacts because I knew I didn't want to work in the treatment world forever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just worked hard, and he put in the good word for me for the judge, and the judge wasn't sure about it at first. I guess he didn't want to hire me, but he ended up talking to me and took a chance on me, and here I am.
Was he tough on you in that interview? Do you remember, or was he
No.
just was it?
He wasn't too tough. He did say, I don't like your family, don't you? And I'm like, well, good, because I sometimes don't like them either.
That's a good response, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so the interview. So, what do you have to do with I don't even know background wise how you become a probation officer? What kind of training and stuff? I don't even know.
Well, I just had to have the OPATA training because now in Ohio, I don't know how they're doing it here. A lot of people are case managers. They're trying to the state's trying to bring people in as counselors and case managers. So
OPATA, you said?
That's your weapons training. So I had to go do weapons training.
Okay.
So we didn't even think we were going to get my weapon at first. So they said you had to be cleared of your past before you can take the...
So, yeah, because any felony, you can't have a weapon typically,
yes,
right?
certain ones you cannot.
For life, right? Is that...
no, it's just certain ones. After a certain point, after 7 years.
Okay.
Some felonies you can. So my felonies were thefts is what they were.
Okay.
So they didn't exclude me from, getting an expungement or anything like that.
Okay.
So I didn't even have the expungement yet. I was actually in the process of that before I took the OPATA class, though my expungements went through. But they said, before I could take the class, that their legal team had to clear me. So they accepted me into the class, and then I took the class, and then when it come time to give me my certificate, my weapons training, they didn't want to give it to me because of my charges. So the judge that wasn't sure about hiring me, he's the one that was battling with the Ohio Attorney General's office about my weapon. So I finally ended up getting it after 9 months after me taking the class, and I still, I wasn't pardoned yet from that. I'm actually going through that right now, the pardon.
Yeah.
I had my parole hearing last month.
Okay.
So we're just waiting on the governor now to approve it or not approve it. So all the board members, they were in favor of pardoning me.
Okay.
From my charges. So that's big too.
So and if they said no, it would typically for your charges be 7 years till you would be able to.
Yeah.
But
well, it's been over 7 years. Yeah, I've been out of prison, since 2011.
Okay.
2011, beginning of 2012, something like that. So it's well past that. All my charges were.
So does it matter then if they sign off or not, since you already have the stuff?
To carry the weapon legally, yes.
Okay.
So the judges hired me on as a probation officer, so they can make anybody they want a probation officer.
So that's the judge's discretion.
That's the judges, yes.
So no specific besides that weapons training.
Yeah.
You don't have to have any specific requirements. Okay, I didn't know that.
No,
okay.
yeah, because it's law enforcement, but it's not law enforcement. We're not the police. So the judges, they can hire anybody they want to as a probation officer. You just can't carry a weapon unless the state of Ohio approves that OPADA. So you have to be proved by them. But they end up giving my weapon before I got a pardon.
How long is it like trained? Like, is it just like a few days? Like
it's 2 weeks.
Okay.
You go up there during the week and you come home on the weekend and then you go back up there. But it's literally all day long. Your thumbs and stuff hurt because you're loading. We did probably 1,000 rounds, and you're just constantly loading and shooting with their fake bullets. They call them inerts.
Okay.
So you just keep loading your gun with that too. So it was kind of cool.
Okay. And they do they take you through a bunch of weapons or just like?
Just the weapon that you're going to be carrying.
Really?
Yep. So whatever you carry, but we have to get qualified every year too. So anything that we're going to be carrying or might use, we get qualified on. We'll shoot some ARs when we get qualified every year, but the guys, there's a couple of them that keep them in their car.
Yeah.
But we typically don't. We typically stay in the office. We'll go out maybe once a week trying to round up some people, but.
So how do you know, like, as far as like with your clients and stuff, rules, how, like, is that on the job training, like working with?
Like just working with our offenders.
Yeah.
We're lower level offenders.
Okay.
So we're not typically, I mean, we do deal with other people that have felonies and stuff too, but they just, different requirements. Like I hold an ISP caseload, which is an intense probation caseload, and a general caseload.
Okay.
So my ISP people, after we do their assessment and stuff, we'll talk about how often they're checking in. And then if they got to have drug and alcohol counseling, stuff like that, in our general caseload, they just check in once a month.
Okay. So with the if they do the drug and alcohol counseling, you just refer them out, basically, right? Do you have specific facilities that you're allowed to work with within the court, or does it matter?
Well, they have to have certain standards. They have all their licensure and stuff like that. Typically, there's a handful that we trust and that communicate well with us.
Okay.
So there's several that we work with down there. But we know in Portsmouth, we have a lot of treatment centers down there. And we have our handful that communicate with us well, work with us well. So we'll typically stay with, the 7, 8 that work really well with us because we trust them, and they don't withhold information, or they give us what we need. They're very responsive.
Sure.
And they're good too.
So with the court, then do they tell you like you were talking about, some of them are just like once a month and stuff, but they just kind of mandate that, I guess, like the.
Oh, no, we do.
You do. Okay.
We tell our people when they check in, and if we call them at the last minute and say, hey, you got 2 hours to get here, you got 2 hours to get there.
Okay.
Or we'll say be here in the morning if we're just doing a random drug screen. So everybody's different. It's not just one set for everybody. It just depends on the offender. It just depends on where you, how many times we've dealt with you, or it
sure.
So
you're gonna get probably more checkups if you're kind of on the naughty list, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
We dealt with you a lot.
Okay. Okay. So you said you go out in the field every once in a while. Is this for people that aren't like responding to when they're supposed to be at their appointments and stuff?
Yeah, if you've got warrants, or if you've left treatment when you're not supposed to. So
that's like almost like bounty hunter style.
Well, I don't know that I'm a bounty hunter. I'm not that badass, but
It's like
we have a lot of guys that back us up too.
I know, I'm thinking out there, but so it's not like just an I guess I didn't really know the extent of a probation officer, to be honest. Like what you're doing.
We just got to make sure everybody's checking in, paying their probation fees, or just not just that, because we don't typically care about the money as much as making sure that you're testing clean and not committing other crimes, because our job is to try to help people to make sure that they're staying clean. So that's why I like where I'm at now is because, yeah, I'm on the other side of the fence, but I actually get to refer people out and try to get them help too, you know, so that's the rewarding part. There's not a lot that changes their life, but if we can just plant that seed into somebody and show them that law enforcement, you don't have to be scared of law enforcement. Yeah, you're going to get locked up if you need to be. You know, when I was back in there, back in my days, I needed, every time I got in trouble, I created that on myself, and I had to take responsibility for that. So now it's just trying to teach people you don't have to be scared of law enforcement. And I love our probation office because it's super laid back. And I tell some of my people too, like if you feel like going and getting high and you just need to come in here and just sit in the lobby, then come and do that. You can come and talk to us. You can come and tell us that you feel like getting high. We're not going to arrest you because you feel like getting high. So law enforcement's changing a little bit slowly, but it's changing. They wouldn't have hired people like me back in the day. You know, it was just jail. Now it's a lot of let's try to get people into treatment. Let's try to get them help. Sometimes we have to be the bad people, and sometimes people, because my fuse is pretty short sometimes. It can be anyways, but sometimes I got to reel myself in too and remember where I came from, and they're sick and they need help, and just sometimes being kind goes a long way. But sometimes you got to be the bad person also. So
well, no, I mean, just thinking about what you said, like how you grow up too, like, and you didn't have anybody who was just like, hey, you're capable of better, you're capable of doing a different way. Like, you didn't have any of that, and there's a lot of people who grow up like that, and like, I mean, I can't imagine, like, I didn't grow up in that, and like just not having that support of somebody saying, hey, you can do anything you want to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like that's a huge thing, and to not grow up with a support system. So talk about having somebody just be kind or plant a seed for you that, hey, it can be a little different than this,
It might take 5 years for that seed to start sprouting. It might take 10 years. But if you can just get it in there somewhere, you never know where it's gonna 100%. Go from that, and creating a positive environment. You can't just sit on your rear end and think that it's going to create itself, because it's not. You have to put yourself out there. You have to get uncomfortable, and you might be intimidated walking into a gym. I know I was when I was like, shoot, because and you're thinking. Like, at the time, I remember thinking, I'm just a drug addict. That's, I've got in trouble. I've been in prison. Like, why are these people going to hang out with me? But they will, and they're pretty laid back themselves, and you never know what kind of past they've had either. That's so it's just putting yourself out there and just realizing that you're worthy of hanging out there too, or wherever you may go.
You belong there too. Yeah. So how's it feel like being on the opposite? Like, I mean, because you've done like a whole 360 thing. Like, how's that feel like looking back or like interacting? Do you ever like see yourself in some of the people you're working with? Like, I've been, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially in the young girls. Sometimes, looking at these young girls that are either selling themselves or just being with people that are taking advantage of them, sometimes I see that, and it breaks my heart, because that takes me back to those days, of when I was weak and when I was weak-minded, and there was nobody to help me pull me up out of that, or even talk to me about, like, hey, what are you doing? Because everybody around me was doing it too, or then sometimes I see kids, when I see hurtful things happen to these kids or happening to these kids, breaks my heart. I remember this little girl one time coming into the probation department. I think it was last year or the year before, and she was the cutest little girl with blonde hair, and we were having to take her mom to jail. And the mom, she had been in Columbus, the mom had the little girl in Columbus for being molested by the little girl's father. And so we had to take her to jail, and that little girl was in the probation. I think it was her father that was molesting her. It may have been somebody else, can't remember. But we were having to take the mom to jail, And that little girl, like, that was the only time I ever had to go in the bathroom and cry at probation, because that just shattered me. Because, this little girl now is having to deal with her mom going to jail because she'd missed, I can't remember if she'd missed court or what she had done, but they were just in the middle of, dealing with all that. So that was heartbreaking. So sometimes it gets to you, it takes you back and you're just like, man.
Yeah. Have you ever, you said you usually have a lot of like support with that, but like, have you ever felt like you've been in like dangerous situations at all with like where you, like,
yeah,
you're like, yes, that's a part of it.
For the most part, where our team is really safe.
Yeah.
We take a lot of cars out with us. We never go into a house when there's just
Alone.
one or two
Yeah.
people. We always have 3 to 4 carloads of people.
Okay.
So our whole team goes out. So there's only 2 females, me and another female, and obviously I'm not very big at all. But we have, a lot of men protect us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we try to not put ourselves in dangerous situations because we're just there for our offenders.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll have to arrest other people too. But that's why we go out with so many people also, is for safety factors, because
Sure.
nobody's trying to get hurt. We're just trying to round up some of our people. And
Yeah. So how does that work with, because like you're not like police exactly, so but you have the power to arrest when they've broken probation to deliver, is that like?
we have the power to arrest anybody that has a warrant
Okay.
out on them. So if we run somebody's name or call the sheriff's department or police department and they have a warrant out on them, we have the power to arrest them. And anybody if we have an address on file for people that are on probation, we have the right to search your stuff. We have the right to go in your house. We have the right to look in your phone. We have the right to look in your car if it's
Okay.
your stuff.
Okay.
We can't just go random people's house, and
Yeah.
it has to be your
Belongs
address
to
on
you.
file. Yeah.
Okay. And then as far as like, do you have people that call in that are like, hey, your person's violating, like, do they like, how do they know like who to contact? Do they just contact the general probation office? Like, how do they?
Yeah, they get us confused because there's 3 different courts down. Well, there's 4 actually. We have the Portsmouth Municipal Court, and then we have the Common Pleas Court, and in the Common Pleas you got adult probation, you got parole, and then you got juvenile court over there too.
Okay.
So sometimes they don't know who they're calling. They're just trying to call around, find out where the person's
Okay.
at. So you just look them up
But
and
then
yeah.
see. Okay. When you're saying like probation and parole, like, are you using them interchangeably? Like how, like just to give a little bit clear, like.
So probation is basically lower level offenders.
Okay.
Parole is people that's come out of prison. So then they go on parole, or they violated parole or something like that. But then we've got the adult probation. So there's adult probation, misdemeanor probation, and then there's parole.
Okay.
So parole usually deals with people from prison and stuff like that, or like I was on parole because I got switched from Kentucky to Ohio. So if it's switched across state lines,
Okay.
then you'll be on parole.
Parole. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just and with the juveniles, do they just say probation?
They do just juvenile probation.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
so-
if they've done like time in a juvenile facility or something, it's still considered.
Yeah, considered juvenile
Okay.
probation. Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious on the terminology with that. Okay. As far as like, is this a field you think you want to stay in? Do you like it? Do you love it? What do you think?
I do like it. Am I going to stay here forever? I don't know, because sometimes, and this has just been hitting me here lately. My whole younger years was chaos, and I try to like work on personal development
Yeah.
a lot. And this is like here recently just been popping in my mind. Like my whole younger years was nothing but chaos, and I've worked really hard trying to get away from chaos,
Yeah.
but I'm still in chaos, even though it's not my personal life.
It's, it's surrounding you still.
So you're like, you get up in the mornings and I'm doing personal development, but then I'm going to court and I'm hearing about, somebody's robbing this person, or somebody's been,
Yeah.
found dead by the river embankment, or, we've got this child rapist in court today. And So you can work on personal development all you want, and you're trying to change those bad thoughts from the past, but you still got that popping up all the time.
Yeah.
So, but where I work is amazing.
Yeah.
They're very family friendly, because I have a daughter too, and she's 4, and I want to raise her completely different.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, how's that going compared to with your son?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now I think I know what grandparents feel like, because I had her at 40, so I'm
Yeah.
always going to be an old mom. But I'm more patient.
Yeah.
I'm not as broke. I'm not a drug addict,
Yeah.
now. So sometimes I worry about like how my son feels about how he sees me now with Mila, because
Sure.
he didn't get the mom she's getting.
Sure.
She's getting the mom that is always with her, takes her with her everywhere she goes. I take her out of the country with me when I travel out of the country. She's with me all the time.
Yeah.
And, with him, I didn't want him, when I did have him, I didn't want him to get dirty because I wanted to change him all the time. With her, I'm like, as long as you're not killing yourself, I don't care what you do. Just whatever. So it's, more patient, and she's just got a completely different mom than him. But him and I talk about it, we've been open and we've been honest, and, I've told him sorry, and I've had to have that adult conversation with him. I'm sorry you didn't get the mom that, she's getting, but he says it doesn't bother him. I don't necessarily truly believe that deep down, because it has to hurt. But he's an amazing big brother.
Yeah.
And, they're all gone. We're taking all of our kids to Costa Rica in January. So we'll have my oldest son, his wife, and my stepson that's 17, and Mila. So that's going to be their Christmas presents, is we're paying for.
Awesome.
We're just getting a big SUV.
That's awesome.
And we're paying for the SUV and the stay, and that's what they're getting for Christmas.
So, this is off topic again, but like with the travel out of the country, how is that? Like, because don't you have to be certain?
No, so everything I've done is so far in the past, all of my crimes, because a lot of them are like 2007, stuff like that. So in order to even file for an expungement or a sealed record, you have to be completely done with everything for at least 7 years.
Okay.
So that's way in my past, all that stuff is.
So if you didn't have that, would you still be able to travel after 7 years typically for like drugs, thievery, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, as long as you're not on parole or probation, as long as your officer says, hey, because if you are going out of the country or out of the state, then you need to
let them know.
Yeah, so when I was on parole from Ohio and I would come to Kentucky, I would have to get a paper signed from an officer over here. So like if I was coming to Kentucky out of the state of Ohio, my parole officer would give me a piece of paper and I'd get it signed here by any officer. So you would just have to stop as an officer, go to the police department, tell them to sign that they're acknowledging that you're there, and then take it back if you're doing it the legal way.
I got you.
But I'm sure some people still leave and they're just like, whatever.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Well, that's cool. So Costa Rica, huh? That's all.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Yeah. I just saw a thing on Facebook that we love animals at our house, but like going through, they had like a 8-day like private retreat with like a world-renowned photographer, and you get to go to Costa Rica and take like wildlife, like, and they teach you how to like edit them and like do like awesome. And I'm like, we have to go do that. Like that looks so amazing. So I think that's going to be a future trip coming up.
Have you ever been to Costa Rica?
It was a long time ago. I travel a lot, but I did go once, but it was like, I was like a teenager. So it's been over 20 years.
I think the first time I went was maybe 7 years ago. And then we took my daughter, me and my husband, we went maybe 3 years ago. Something. So this will be my third time there.
Okay. Yeah. We just went we just went to Iceland, Greenland, Amsterdam. I just got
back from Iceland.
Did you really? When did you go?
I went there, this is my second time being there too, but me and my husband just went last month.
We were there just last month.
Oh,
That's
really?
so weird. I wonder if we were there at the same.
Did you go to Diamond Beach and the Black Sand Beach and all that?
We did. We were on a cruise. We went to Amsterdam a couple days early, but we went to Reykjavik. Where else? Isla Ford. I don't know how to say that. and then Akureyri.
Okay.
So those were our 3 stops. Well, we went down in a volcano, like
I
a
wanted to
half
do
hour,
that.
a half hour from where like the erupting one was.
Oh, okay, we drove over by there.
So yeah, and the Blue Lagoon had just opened back up like the day before we got
Okay.
there from there,
Up in
Yeah,
Grindavik.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and we were like, that was fun. So it was cool. But yeah, we just got back from that last month. So that was our big trip
We
this year.
went. See, where did we go? Was it last year? No, last year we went to Argentina because we usually go out of the country a lot too.
Yes, yeah.
But the year before that, we went to Iceland and then Ireland. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
drove to Washington, hit Iceland Air because Iceland Air does a free stopover to Dublin.
Okay.
So you can do a free layover on Iceland Air up to 7 days if you're flying into Dublin.
Okay.
So we did that, but we had my daughter, my stepson, and a friend that's a little older, and we couldn't do some of the stuff that we wanted.
Yeah.
We were traveling to Vik to go to Diamond Beach and all that, but
Yeah.
a snowstorm came because we went in January the
no,
first
yeah,
time.
that'd
So
be
we had to
freezing.
turn around, and Airbnb is great because we just Airbnb'd on the go.
Yeah.
So this time, me and my husband, him and I just went, and we didn't take any kids or anything because we
Yeah.
wanted to do
All
some
those
stuff that we
things.
can't do
Yes.
with a toddler.
Yes.
But we went to Vik and seen Diamond Beach and all the glaciers, and stuff like that. We canceled our cave tour because where they had that flood
Yes.
from the Katla volcano warming up there for a
Yep.
little bit. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to go in the ice cave because that was the cave we were going to go in.
Yeah, yeah. It's beautiful. We want to go back and drive around ourselves instead of having just a day here, a day there.
Yeah.
We want to go drive around. But anyways, I'm like that too. I don't even know what we were talking about. I got really like
I just go off on any topic.
I just did a squirrel thing really bad just now. But yeah, I don't even remember what we were talking about because you were talking about leaving out of the country, and I was wanting to know about parole, but that's what happened with that. so okay, you were talking. I want to go back to the positive thinking and the like improvement stuff. So what are you thinking like would be a good move? Do you have anything like vision wise or like things that you've always wanted to do that you think that you might segue into eventually?
Well, I feel like I've been so far because I had all those years of chaos because I didn't start getting sober until my later 20s.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
With everything because I had to go back and get my GED. I've had to do all these things that everybody else had. They've already learned all that and they've already done all that. So no, I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm going to stay here at the court as long as they'll probably keep me too. Unless I can work from home and make really good money at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's laid back, at the court and we got pretty good benefits and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess manifest it up, and when it comes, it'll come.
When you see the opportunity, right?
Yeah,
just like with this.
Yeah, with this, but the universe knows what you want, and the universe sends things to you when it's meant to be. So True. I think I'm supposed to be where I'm at. It's been an amazing experience, and I've met a lot of amazing people, and I don't know that. Because I went through the pardon project to get my pardon to work on it. So
what's the pardon project?
So if you meet the qualifications, you can go online in the state of Ohio, and you just print off the application. The pardon project is supposed to help you get a pardon quicker.
Okay.
But they won't give you a pardon unless you need a reason for it. So my reasoning was, I can't advance even where I'm at with this stuff over my head.
Sure.
But the judges and them, they're like, you don't need that. And I'm like, yeah, it's just I know I don't need it, but I just want to see if I can do it. Just another thing of shutting the past off.
Sure. 100%.
Anything I can do. So I've had my record sealed. So there's sealment, expungement, and a pardon. So at the time when I first started going through the process, I could only get them sealed. So then I have to get them expunged.
What's the difference there on those two?
Sealing is they just seal the record, but the record's still at the courthouse. So if anybody needs in the record, they can still get in it. It's in an envelope. Expungement, they throw it in the trash.
Okay.
So now, like, law enforcement's always going to be able to see that that's on the record. Pardon is just, people can still see it on the record, but they're not supposed to be able to use that against you because the government, he pardoned you from that. So they're not,
Gotcha.
nobody's supposed to be able to use that against you.
See, I didn't know there was those 3 levels like that either. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, so you know, I've went through all that, but that was just a personal preference. So I'm here, the universe put me here for this reason.
Yeah.
For, you know, the pardon and all those things wouldn't have been possible probably.
Yeah.
I'm going to say they're not without me being where I'm at.
Yeah.
And having the people vouching for me
100%.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't know that I would have hired me.
Right.
If you looked at just my past,
Yeah.
you know, you've got this little drug addict from Willersburg that was chaotic and, you know, got kicked out of school and did all those things. What, you know, so it's just showing people that you can pull yourself up.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I love it. I really appreciate you coming and like sharing your story. I think that's going to be really encouraging to people out there, like, you know, that have maybe had a little checkered past and done some things, but, you know, just seeing that, you know, hey, here's a living, breathing like example of like, you don't have to stay in that, you know?
Yeah.
But is there anything else like you want to share or say before we start to kind of wind down?
You know, just my family now that I have, my husband, my daughter, and then, you know, I've got my stepson and my son. That's who my family is now.
Yeah.
And they're just amazing, the positivity that, you know, my husband, I don't know how he deals with me sometimes because I'm way up here with attitude and he's, you know, so laid back.
What's he do?
He actually he worked in the adult probation department when we met on the drug court panel.
Okay.
So he actually worked over there, but he was a counselor supervisor over there. But now he works for a treatment center, and he is the counselor supervisor at Moving Forward.
Okay.
So that's what he does now.
Okay.
But, you know, he's not from my past. He's not ever been like that. He was always raised good, but he never has judged me from my past. And he knows all about my past. He's dealt with my family.
Yeah.
So just the peace. I never knew what true peace in life could be until like now. Like it's just so peaceful at my house.
Yeah.
It feels like home. I've never had a place that just, you know, when you walk into it, you're like, this is my home. This makes me feel like home.
Yeah.
And I have that now.
Awesome.
It took a long time to get there, but, you know, we travel and we do all those things. And so life is amazing now. It's very good now.
I flippin' love it. That's awesome. No, that's a good story. Like I said, I think that really, like, somebody hears that, it'd be like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect at the start. I can, like, turn that around if I want to.
You can, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
my
100%.
husband's always like, you're always, because I'm always busy, and I'm always like, man, I'm so busy. He's like, you create that for yourself. You know, it's self-induced. I'm like, yeah, because I have my hands in everything trying to, because I want to just travel all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to do is travel.
I love it. I love it. Well, I always wrap up with a quote, and I feel like this is good for what we've been talking about. So this one is, if you're serious about changing your life, you'll find a way. If you're not, you'll find an excuse. And that's Jen Cicero. So
I love it.
I thought that was good to end with today. So thanks again for being here. And
you're welcome.
We'll see y'all the next time.
Thank you.